built out of stone. Wooden floors, walls, and window sills. Tables and chairs warmed by all of the dust. This is a place where I don't feel alone. This is a place where
Arne Slot, how do you answer for your crimes? Arne Slot, why did you start the same lineup that you started against Chelsea and expect that something different was going to happen? Arne Slot, why do you insist on using every player in a slightly different way than they should be used? I know for one, I'm personally sick of hearing how difficult the schedule is. Even though it is very difficult, we know that, but that's the footballing schedule, and we are Liverpool. We're going to have a difficult schedule. So Arne Slot, why are you talking about the schedule so much? Are you sure it's not just the tactics? What do you have to say about the emergency team meeting that's happening today? Just last week, it was me saying that all of us should take it light. And we should. We should continue to take it light. I don't think we should pile on. I think all of us should remain composed, keep our wits about us. I am in no way Arne Slot out. None of you should be Arne Slot out. Let me make that perfectly clear. Nobody here should be Arne Slot out. Arne Slot still has a tremendous amount of credit in the bank. He should, shouldn't he? Last season happened. We can pretend that it didn't, but last season happened, guys. And in the midst of every single possible difficult situation that Liverpool has been faced with, has Arne Slot not handled the situation almost perfectly? I'd say he has, but I'm starting to ask some questions. Not a lot. Not a lot of questions, but I have some questions. The arrogance is starting to worry me a little bit. There's a lot of excuse making, a lot of not necessarily finger pointing, I wouldn't say, but a lack of accountability from somebody that you want to be leading a group of teammates. There's rarely any internal reflection on what he could be doing differently regarding his tactics. There's pointing fingers about how other teams are more willing to do something like take a dive, but we just have too much integrity to do so. There's regular finger pointing about the added time on added time at the end of games, and don't get me wrong, I can be a little frustrated about it as well, but it would be nice to not harp on something like that. It would be nice to hear somebody admit that their tactics are not working, and admit that a change is needed. But we don't have that yet, guys. I haven't seen it yet. Have you seen it yet? I haven't. I haven't seen it yet. And a lot of people are making a big deal of his holiday in Dubai. I think everybody needs to take a little breather on that one. It was an international break, don't get me wrong. It's not like he was there the entire 2 weeks. Was he there the entire 2 weeks? I'm not 100% sure of that story. Arne Slot, if you were there, for an entire 2 weeks, why were you there for 2 weeks when we had lost 3 consecutive matches? If he wasn't there for 2 weeks consecutively, let the man have a little bit of a break with his family, with friends, whatever he might be doing. Let him take time. But make no mistake about it, the majority of that time should have been spent trying to figure out what his lineup looked like for that coming Manchester United game that we just did not show up for. Instead, he decided to trot out the same lineup that put in a similarly humiliating lack of effort performance against Chelsea just 2 weeks ago. And this was after all of our players, from my perspective, had a tremendous international break, and it seemed like all of them got into relative solid form, right? Multiple players had solid performances. Milos Kerkez was starting to look like Milos Kerkez. Mo Salah had 2 goals in his one game because he was playing a little bit closer in as opposed to far out on the touchline. Cody Gakpo, those 3 off the post misses that he had, converted them when he was with the Netherlands team. No problem. Scored 3 of those in a game. Alexis McAllister, 2 against Puerto Rico, and he looked like a corpse against Manchester United. Alexis McAllister looked like a corpse. Yep, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Alexis McAllister looked like a corpse, and he was still in the lineup. Arne Slot, if Alexis McAllister looked like a corpse, why was he in the lineup? And don't even get me started on the Florian Wirtz usage. And don't even get me started on Hugo Ekitike not being in there. Don't even get me started. Bringing them in with 30 minutes left. Sure, here you guys go. There you go. Figure it out. Have fun. Shoo. See what you can do. Have fun. The pressure's already on you guys because you guys are the new $100 million boys. And it's okay. Go ahead. Have fun. Figure it out. Enjoy. Why, Arne Slot? Did that happen? Sick of it. I'm sick of it. And again, in no way am I Slot out. Like I said, tremendous amount of credit in the bank from last season. He deserves a lot of flowers from last season. I think Arne Slot managed this team as perfectly as he could have following the loss of Jurgen Klopp that previous season. I thought he was a perfect step in. He offered a perfect balanced alternative to what that iteration of the Liverpool roster could do following the Klopp era. It was a perfect balance of control, a perfect balance of press, a perfect balance of subtle chaos. He had it figured out. And then he went and got his new young crop of talent, as he should have, just as any Premier League winning team should. They should go secure that young batch of new talent that is going to come in and be the future of the team. And that is exactly what Liverpool did in the offseason. So why, Arne Slot, are we looking to the past? If the future is right in front of our eyes, why don't we dive into it? In all seriousness, though, I do genuinely think there are quite a bit of problems that need addressed, and I really want to get into that before we load up for the Frankfurt game. I think we need to address a little bit of the issues that we had in that Manchester United game, similar to the Chelsea game, and then I kind of want to lay out the lineup that I think should be deployed against Frankfurt that is probably going to give us the most optimal chance at success based on the roster, how everything's currently constructed, and the areas in which we are lacking. All right, so like I mentioned, I kind of just want to go over some of the stuff that we saw in the previous match against Manchester United, kind of what our structure was looking like, what Arne Slot was thinking, I think, and we'll just kind of go from there. So real quickly, I'll just get into it. So the way that we lined up, obviously, let's get Curtis Jones out of there because Curtis Jones was not in the game, unfortunately. I'll get into that in a second. So this is how we lined up. We started with Kirkez and Bradley at left back and right back respectively. Obviously, Gakpo was in there, Salah was in there, Isak was in there, as is tradition. And then, of course, the 3 midfielders that we are used to seeing from last season. And this was obviously the same lineup that we saw kind of get humiliated and out-efforted against Chelsea just 2 weeks ago. So in this match, the selection of McAllister and Szoboszlai. Arne Slot had McAllister and Szoboszlai pushed a little bit higher, and Gravenberch was kind of just acting back in his single little territory as a 6. Both Kirkez and Bradley more so was pushing up. Kirkez was still kind of being utilized in this left center back situation, which I'm just not a big fan of. But I also mentioned that on my previous video, so go check that out. I detail pretty much every single player on the team, exactly what they're doing, so I'd love for you to go give that a look as well. But what we were seeing is that McAllister and Szoboszlai were being pushed a little bit higher up, and I think it was probably because Alexander Isak and Mohamed Salah have gotten off to a little bit of a more difficult start, so we were just trying to get some starters in there for them. It's kind of why we saw Isak, I think, drifting a little bit more over to that right-hand side where Mohamed Salah was. We've seen some nice interplay with Isak and Salah, so it's not a surprise to see Isak lining up next to him, or Arne Slot wanting Isak to line up a little closer to him, just to be able to get both of those guys on the same schedule with one another. We also saw Szoboszlai over there quite a bit as well. He was pushed up high. I think he was there also to try to just connect in between those two guys. And we saw a little bit of that on the touchline with like Bradley, Zoboslai, Salah, as we've been seeing, but it just was, again, nowhere near as effective as it should be because we had McAllister pushed a little bit higher, kind of filling this spot. So Gravenberch was left back by himself, and this kind of forced Kerkez to also stay back. And in the opportunities where Kerkez was bombing forward and McAllister or somebody else was dropped a little bit further back, we were seeing the same stuff as we've been seeing. Cody Gakpo's cutting in off the right. Kerkez is looping down. Gakpo was a little bit more regular with his passes into Kerkez, and I thought we saw Kerkez make a little bit more out of those opportunities this time around. But Kerkez still struggled because he was again being used in that really uncomfortable left center back position that he should not be playing. So let's just put him back there. Gakpo is back over here. But what we were seeing a lot of the time is McAllister was creeping in, Zoboslai was creeping in. Let's just move all these guys up in attack. So we move everybody up here. If McAllister's creeping in and Zoboslai's creeping in, I like the idea of Zoboslai being a little bit higher up to like fill in these channels right here, because I also think that he offers a tremendous amount to the press. But McAllister being up here, we are completely losing so much passing progression from the back. Kerkez has already shown that he can't really pass progress from the back. Virgil's been our best pass progressor from the back this season, and Ibu was our best pass progressor from the back this previous match. So we're not really seeing very many through balls. Bradley is abandoning Kanate over here, not really allowing Ibu any comfortability. Fortunately, United's a little bit more rigid in their system, so they weren't putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Ibu. That really helped us. But that being the case, Bradley being so far up is doing Ibu no favors. And when Bradley got the ball, the majority of the time it was just a swing back to Kanate or just a middle pass into Gravenberch or somebody like that. There was hardly any forward progression, which is the biggest issue I've harped on for weeks now. And you'll see in this image right here, I mean, look at the build-up space that is completely vacated in the middle. There's nobody to get the ball into in the middle to progress the pass forward, right? That's why we're seeing guys like Florian Wirtz, when he's on the pitch, having to drive so high up because our midfield has so much freedom pushing up. So a guy like Wirtz has to drop back because a guy like McAllister or a guy like Zoboslai is pushed higher. Zoboslai, I'm totally fine with it. He actually offers some offensive dynamics, some physicality, some bit of press. A guy like McAllister, though, especially where he's at right now, he's just a little bit out of fitness. I almost think McAllister shouldn't even be on the pitch right now. I just don't think he fits exactly what we need him to do. And if that's the case, we need to start diagnosing what we can put in there to make the system work. Because if we lose our 5th straight against Frankfurt, it'll be the first time Liverpool's done that since the early 50s. So something needs to be done, right? And unfortunately, with this little setup that we had where McAllister was kind of driving into these little spaces, Zoboslai was driving into these spaces, all it did was push Gakpo a little bit wider. It pushed Mo Salah a little bit wider. And what did I say in my last video? Mohamed Salah needs to be in here. Cody Gakpo is not a winger who's going to take people on and trick people with his deftness and his beautiful dribbling. It's going to be cut into the middle and a shot. And it's either going to go off the post or it's going to go in the net. And unfortunately, it just went off the post a shitload against United. And I in no way want this to sound like me bashing Cody Gakpo. I thought that he actually offered quite a bit. The margins are so close in these matches, and if a few of those shots were 2 inches inside goal, Liverpool wins 3-2, and we're obviously still freaking out about it, but nowhere near like we are right now after now losing 4 in a row. I just don't know if Gakpo offers the versatility that we need. Liverpool needs more from a left winger than somebody who's going to do the same thing over and over again. There comes a time where the defense just knows exactly what's going to happen, so they're going to be able to telegraph it, they're going to be able to read it, and that's pretty much what's happening right now. But I just think Cody Gakpo is very limited, and I think Liverpool needs something a little bit more varied on that side. And I feel the same for Mohamed Salah, you know, like it does get to a point where is this based on merit? Where is it based on current form? You know, Mohamed Salah has not been effective in multiple games this season. He hasn't had a goal from open play in, I think, 7 or 8 matches. So I just think he's not really offering what he needs to. I know that he created 3 chances or whatever that statistic was, but still, Mohamed Salah needs to perform better. And I also think that we just need a little bit more variance on that side, because if we're having a guy like Gakpo on the left who's not going to blow by any fullbacks, and we have a guy like Mohamed Salah who's not going to blow by any fullbacks on the right, there's just very little attacking pressure that we're able to put on teams, especially when we're completely unable to build the ball up from the back, as you were able to see in the tremendous amount of gaps. And then we had that 62nd-ish minute when Wirtz and Ekitike and all those guys came on, and I really loved the deployment, or the idea of the deployment of Ekitike and Wirtz and Isak and Salah and all of those guys being out there. But instead we kept Gakpo in, we didn't put Wirtz on the left wing, and we had Wirtz operating in like a dual pivot with Curtis Jones. We needed another midfielder in there to help with midfield progression, to help with a little bit of cushioning on defense. And instead we had Florian Wirtz in there and Cody Gakpo on the left wing. And of course, obviously, we start seeing a lot of progression in the attack with Wirtz, with Ekitike. We're getting the ball forward more and more. Federico Chiesa ends up coming on for Isak. We see more and more of a push. I didn't like the idea of taking out Isak for Chiesa. I thought that should have been a Gakpo situation as well. But for whatever reason, Gakpo remains on the pitch, and here we are. But again, we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and it created the chaos, and we got our goal. But that said, those same exact substitutions ended up being a big part of what we got wrong. There was very little resistance in the defense. There was very little effort in ball winning. And then when Bruno crosses the ball up, there's nobody to mark Slabhead in the back. You just can't have that. He's their number 1 threat in that position. You can't have that. And that's been a common through line through these last few games. The other team scores really quickly, this time United scoring within the first 65 seconds of the match. But the other team scores really quickly. We have to burn and burn and burn energy just to get back into the game, just to tie it up. And then we end up conceding in the last minute again anyway. It's just been a very common through line, and I don't know how close we are to being at the end of that. But I do think if we start looking at this with a future first mentality, instead of living in the past and relying on the guys that we relied on to win last year, I just have a feeling that we'll arrive at the outcome we want much quicker. And that is on Arne Slot. And Arne Slot, what are you doing to address that? So let me walk you through what my idea is for the coming game against Frankfurt, because I think that it actually has a tremendous amount of promise, and I would love to know what you guys think about it. All right, so what you're looking at here is kind of what my idea is. My original idea was Gravenberch being in where Curtis Jones is at, right over here, and Curtis Jones playing the right back spot. But it looks like Gravenberch's not going to be playing, so we just kind of have to make do. So we're going to put Frimpong back over there. We're going to take Curtis Jones. Actually, no, we're going to keep Curtis Jones on and put him in the Gravenberch spot. My whole thought process is having a guy like Curtis Jones at right back to be able to step into the midfield and invert, kind of like what Trent did. So just imagine Curtis over here. And imagine this is Gravenberch just for right now. So my idea was having a guy like Curtis Jones being a good passing progressor like he is, having somebody that was able to step into midfield when everything is a little bit shifted over. Maybe Robbo comes back on over here. You have a guy like Gravenberch back here. I know it says Frimpong, but that's Gravenberch. You have Curtis Jones coming in here, and then you have your attack going straight through. However, obviously, like it is, we have to go with this. So my thought here is Curtis Jones, again, very good passing progressor of the ball. Andy Robertson, very good passing progressor of the ball. It's something we are mightily struggling with, obviously. So why not get the 2 best passing progressors of the ball on the pitch at the same time? I know Curtis Jones is not your ideal 6. However, I do think Andy Robertson can do something like stepping into the back to help out, because he's probably not going to be bombing forward very much, because we, in this situation, have Jeremy Frimpong going forward, which I think is going to open up a lot for the offense. We saw him get involved multiple times, had 2 very solid crosses into the box that could have resulted in something, I thought. And he's shown us that this season as well in multiple matches when he has been fit. He just offers a little bit of a spark plug. Obviously, he leaves a little bit of space in here, but that's why somebody like Curtis Jones being over here, being able to shadow, stopping into these spaces. He's obviously not a tremendous athlete, but he's going to be somebody that offers a little bit of resistance. And that's also why you have Dominic Szoboszlai running down on this side, because Dominik Szoboszlai is also used to playing the right back situation, unfortunately, as he's had to. So if he needs to get back, make a sprint back, he's going to have some comfortability doing so. And also he offers a decent amount in the attack as well. So having him being in this position, Szoboszlai to me personally is a non-starter. He should be in every 11 for us. I think it just makes the most sense. And then the next two guys that I think should be non-starters going forward as well, you have to have Florian Wirtz and you have to have Hugo Ekitike on the pitch. I don't care what anybody says. The future is now, guys. I know that we had a tremendous season last season. I know that the team was riding high from that. I know we had a tremendous amount of expectations going into this season, but now we're seeing that those expectations should have been nowhere near as high as they were, because we are going to be dealing with a very difficult infusion of the future into the past. And I'm not saying Mohamed Salah and Alexis McAllister, I'm not saying these guys are the past, but Mohamed Salah is putting on the miles, and our play style is sort of outgrowing what Alexis McAllister is best at doing. So I think Arne Slot is trying to rely a little bit too heavily on the guys that he trusts the absolute most, and that obviously makes a lot of sense. They're guys that he went to war with last season. Of course he's going to trust them. But I think he needs to embrace the now, and he especially needs to embrace the future, because the future looks extremely bright. And especially Ekitike, as he's been in tremendous form all season, and I think Florian Wirtz has offered way more than anybody is giving him credit for. So let's just dive into what this does for them. Wirtz, you get him over on his left side like he's very comfortable doing. A guy like Szoboszlai being up in this spot, maybe Szoboszlai's a little bit further pushed back, so Wirtz has a little bit more flexibility. That's actually probably what it would look like. So Szoboszlai can get back and defend if need be, and still be able to offer a little bit in the attack. So I still think Wirtz would be doing his typical touchline to touchline, but Szoboszlai could sneak up in there a little bit as he's done this season, and just try to keep Wirtz a little bit more left and a little bit more central. That's really what I want to see. I want him to be in the position in which he thrives, especially because Mohamed Salah, as you'll see, is not on the pitch for me. Federico Chiesa is. And I actually don't think you need Florian Wirtz to be drifting as much to the right side without Mohamed Salah in the lineup, because Salah started a little bit sluggish. He's been a little bit off in his form. Wirtz has had some nice connectivity with him, but I think a guy like Chiesa has shown that he's a little bit more connective this season than Mohamed Salah is. I also think he offers a little bit more pace than Salah does at the moment. He offers a little bit more unpredictability is the biggest thing for me. So I think keeping him over there, allowing Wirtz to stay over in his left side, and then also having Hugo Ekitike starting on the left wing, just so we can finally have a little bit of different interplay over on that side. I know Arne Slot loves Cody Gakpo. I know Cody Gakpo has been one of our most consistent players, but unfortunately consistency just doesn't necessarily cut it if your consistency level is not at the level that the team needs you to be at. You can be consistently solid, but if we need a consistently great left winger, consistently solid just does not cut it if you're only able to be great once every blue moon. So having a guy like Hugo Ekitike over there, who we just saw was very effective at coming off the dribble over on the left-hand side. He's able to drive at people at will. He's able to have this interplay with Florian Wirtz. Alexander Isak will be able to come over if he wants to and get involved. He can drop up. They can have interplay between them. It could be very, very interesting to have those three guys over there, and it could really signal toward the future. So that's what I personally really want to see. However, I know Arne Slot has this fetish for keeping his midfield three. Arne Slot, why do you have a fetish for the midfield three from last season? That is showing that it's not really that effective this season, based on the tactics you're implementing that are allowing them to drive deeper than Alexander Isak. So this midfield three right here, sub Gravenberch, obviously, with Curtis Jones, because Gravenberch won't be playing. But imagine this was Gravenberch, and you have your classic midfield three that Arne Slot is obsessed with, as I mentioned. This is what I would personally like to see if Arne Slot so chose to roll out a similar midfield three that he has. Notice how Florian Wirtz is in here. My idea is Florian Wirtz off the left wing. Get Isak out there. I actually would rather have Ekitike in here for interplay. My idea would have Florian Wirtz being coming off the left and having him play similar to how he does with his German international team. Go watch my previous video that I made. I broke him down very in depth, where he really just hangs out in this left corner over here from about midfield up until this part of the box. He just hangs out in that space. So what I would see Florian Wirtz doing in this position would basically be doing the same thing and occasionally coming even centrally, where a guy like Ekitike and a guy like Chiesa, or you could even have Isak in this situation, floating over, and now you're basically creating a diamond with your midfield. You're able to have Florian Wirtz offering a little bit in the press. You're able to have Szoboszlai offer a little bit in the press. A guy like Frimpong's going to be able to drive forward because we have Robertson on the pitch. They've got a little back three. Curtis Jones is going to provide a little bit of passing ball progression. McAllister, provided that he stays in this position right here rather than being this high up like he frequently was against Manchester United, provided he stays in this spot, he could offer a little bit of tenacity in the midfield and some decent ball progression into a guy like Wirtz in these spaces, in this half space. And I just really want to see Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, and Alexander Isak out there all at the same time. And I know all of you do too, because I'm on Twitter just like all of you, and I know all of us are sick of it. So god damn it, show me something, Arne Slot. Show me something. And even if you want to keep Chiesa out there, go ahead and keep Chiesa out there. He's been our most in-form attacker this entire season beside Hugo Ekitike. And I still think he kind of rivals Ekitike's form. He's tied with the most goal involvements on this entire team right now, and he's played some of the fewest minutes of any of our attackers. So maybe we just give him a chance too, guys. Arne Slot. Arne Slot, why don't you like Federico Chiesa? I would just really, really like for Arne Slot to stop with the stubbornness, embrace the future, embrace the talent that we have. Just let the guys that you brought in be the guys who you brought in. Allow it to happen. Allow the future to take over. It's time. And I think all of us are extremely excited for when that inevitably does happen. But yeah, guys, that's all I really got. Really appreciate you guys checking this one out. Really hope you guys will like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the stuff you guys gotta do. I'm also going to link below in my description a live stream that I did with the LFC Transfer Room Twitter and YouTube account. Also, we're joined by a couple other really great guys, Johnny and Wall. I'll link their information down in my description as well, because I really enjoyed the conversation with them, and I think I'm probably going to continue doing that with those guys. We had a great time. It was a really good discussion. We had a lot of people chiming in with comments as well, so I'd really love for you guys to check me out on there whenever I go on there next. So like I said, I'll link all that information below. Like, comment, subscribe, get in the comments below. I really want to know what you guys think about all this stuff. So yeah, I will talk to you guys later. See ya!